Friends, can we bow our heads real quick so we can say a prayer to the Almighty God. Eternal God, open my ears to hear your voice. Eternal God, open my mind to understand your word. Eternal God, open my lips so my mouth may declare your glory. All this I ask in your name. Amen. Amen. First, I want to thank the Brotherhood of St. Andrew for reaching out to me to speak to you all today, especially for the youth. When I was given the theme of unity and diversity in one body, it took me a while to try and find the right words and the right words to deliver in today's message. And as a stubborn guy, as many of you know, I had to humble myself to hear God's voice so I can process his words and speak it today. When breaking down the concept of unity and diversity in one body, I'm reminded of the strength of that body that enables diversity to unite. Even simpler, I quickly thought of palm trees. Now, many of you may know or may not know that I went down to the beautiful U.S. Virgin Islands last year to clerk for a federal district court in St. Croix. One of the best parts about being there was, yes, you figured it out, sitting on the beach and watching the beauty of the palm trees. One thing I've learned, which I was very naive about, was the diverse characteristics each palm tree has. There are those that have palmate or fan-shaped leaves, and there are those that have pinate or feather-shaped leaves. There are some brown, some green, and others yellow. Although each palm tree has its unique and diverse characteristics, it still remains one species, a palm tree. Using the analogy of the palm tree, I want to relate our theme to the state of our youth today, our community today, and ourselves today. See, we are all unique and diverse in our own ways. God has blessed each one of us with different talents that we must use not only to glorify him, but to bless others. However, many times we forget how to unite our diversity to not only be one body, but one strong body. Body being the catalyst of unity amongst diversity. I mentioned the state of our youth. Today we see many of our youth caught up in violence and crime. To speak candidly, too many of our black youth are caught up in crime and violence. And to speak even more candidly, it is our fault. I may not get asked to speak again, but it is our fault. When we look at the statistics of our black young people going to prison, it is an atrocity. It is disheartening to see our youth turning their back to education and opening their arms to gangs and violence. While in law school, I was involved with our mock trial board, very active with the board. One of our staple events was motion day at the county courthouse right up the block from the law school. We'd get a group of our classmates to walk over and observe a plethora of motions and sentencing proceedings before any one of the 22 circuit court judges. As we sat towards the back of the courtroom, defendants filed in and for their sentencing on crimes ranging from possession of marijuana to rape convictions. And sadly, the percentage of the defendants who were our black youth was very substantial. That is a problem. That is our problem. For those who've never sat through one of these proceedings, I'll quickly explain how it works. The defendant would appear before the judge, and the judge would read the terms of the conviction, read the applicable statutes to their crime, and allow final testimony from the prosecutor, victims, the defense counsel, and finally the defendant. Once everybody has spoken, the judge asks the defendant the level of education he or she has attained, the aspirations they may have had, and the reasons for them committing the crime. It is very saddening to hear that many of those black young people who stood before the court either graduated or almost graduated high school. They had high aspirations to be engineers, mathematicians, doctors, scientists, and the list goes on. Oddly enough, none of them said lawyer. But to see that there's so much potential in these troubled youths, we have to ask ourselves, where are we going wrong? Let's revisit the palm trees. Various types of palm trees bear different fruit. For example, there are palm trees which bear coconuts, and then there are palm trees which bear dates. And again, that list goes on. Each palm tree has its uniqueness. However, amongst the diversity, there is still one common trait. Many wonder, how is it that amidst hurricanes, tsunamis, storms, and high winds, the palm tree remains unfettered? Because the roots of a palm tree run deep. Unfortunately, palm trees are on the endangered species list because their greatest risk is the destruction of their habitat by people. Our young people are our palm trees. They bear so many unique and diverse fruit that we can't even fathom. When we look around, we see the diversity and uniqueness and aspirations and accomplishments of our youth. Like those palm trees in St. Croix, it is indeed a sight to see. However, when we look at the potential in our troubled youth, it is evident that the black youth are too on the endangered species list, whose greatest risk is their destruction by negative influences. We as a community must stop and ponder to ourselves, are we a strong body, cultivating those deep roots so they always know that we are one through their diversity? As was read in my bio, I started first grade at St. Joseph's Parish Day School right up the block. And for the parents out there is open enrollment for this as well as the summer camp. Finally beat me to the advertising function. But I'm still going to plug it in. And as Mr. Ranty could attest, I was a very talkative kid. Go big. My talkativeness would get me in trouble so many times to the point where it made my teachers frustrated. And I would even intervene and speak on behalf of my classmates and friends who would get in trouble as well. I remember that our very own, St. Joseph's very own Canon Anthony would always have to save me from the trouble I would get myself in by reasoning to my teachers on my behalf. I remember one day Father Anthony sat me down in his office and spoke to me and asked me, why is it I like to talk so much? I told him something along the lines that I like to speak out for not only myself, but for others. Then he asked me, what is it that I wanted to be when I grow up? I responded, I wanted to be a priest and a lawyer. With both responses, I knew that there was a huge calling to advocate for others and a level of being very talkative. Ever since that talk, Father Anthony alerted others of my aspirations and began creating a community that would later on cultivate me into who I am today, doing what I love most, advocating for others and talking. See, in my anecdote, my community realized that my uniqueness and diverse characteristics were not something that should be ignored. Rather, it was something that united everyone around me by giving me strong and deep roots, similar to that palm tree. As a community, we need to remember our young people who have those traits and characteristics that we find odd or different, and not only help them, but also help others realize that it's our job to unite them, their talents, into one strong body of accomplishments and success. As a community, we must unite ourselves into one body so that we can cultivate in our young people roots that run deep just like that palm tree. In today's society, our young people are facing hurricanes of their own. They're facing a hurricane of drugs and depression. They're facing tsunami of bad influences and peer pressure. But because we fail to unite and cultivate the diversity of their talents, they give into those disasters, just like those youths on Motion Day. They are too far gone. Now is the time to reclaim them. Well, the question is, how do we do this?